I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing? I'm great. Thanks for asking. I am at Williamson NFL on Twitter and my YouTube page, and I got a couple things to carry over from the schedule. Some interesting things I dug up, and there's some people will really rip into these things heavily. But if you just look at the miles traveled across the country and overseas for the 2024 season, Steelers are very low. So to give you some idea, the Los Angeles Chargers will travel 2,600 and 800 miles this year. 26,800 miles this year. That's the most in the league. There's four teams, the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, are going to travel over 25,000 miles. The Rams and Niners are at 24,000 miles. And obviously the West Coast teams travel more every year. That's just the way it's going to be. Like Seattle doesn't drive to any game, and no Seattle reporter drives to any game. So yes, that's always going to be a thing. But I do think it takes a toll. And when you look at the teams that have the fewest miles, compared to some of these that are at 25,000, the Commanders are at 10,500. The Bengals are at 10,600. The Colts are at 11,500. And then the Steelers are next, just over 12,000 miles. The Falcons are also in the 12,400 neighborhood. So there's only three teams that are going to go less mileage over the course of the year than the Steelers, which I do think is important, to be very honest with you. I think it just kind of wears on you, all that travel. Now, travel's easier now than it was in the 80s or whatever, but still, that's one little thing I wanted to bring up. Now, we have discussed those last 8 games for the Steelers. In case you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, the Steelers' last 8 games are all 6 of their division games, which is bonkers, a trip to Philly, and the Chiefs and Taylor Swift here at home on Christmas. So that is a murderer's row. And the Steelers will, the at Philly, at Baltimore, Kansas City at home stretch, and those 3 teams are really tough. Those all happen in 10 days. It's actually 11 days total. It's a 10-day or 11-day window there that they're going to play 3 games at Philly, at the Ravens, against the Super Bowl champs and Pat Mahomes. Brutal. So those last 8 games not only are the hardest in the league over the last 8 games, but they're way lower than the 31st team, or the second hardest team. So you better put some, hay in the barn or whatever they say. However, as I warned you going into this process, we knew the Steelers were going to have the hardest schedule in the league, and this is based off of Vegas win totals, but those last 8 games are way harder than anyone else's last 8 weeks. But over the first 10 weeks, since you asked, the Steelers have the seventh easiest schedule. So those first 10 weeks, and there's a bye included, and that ends with the Washington game, you better win 6 or 7 of them, out of the 9. There's a bye in there. So that's really important. You're going to have to come out with a quick start. And who knows what those last 8 games are. Burrow might be out. Lamar might be out. Chiefs might be resting guys. Who knows? But it'll be pretty important to start quick. And I know that doom and gloom of the last 8 games, is doomy and gloomy. But to be the 7th easiest schedule in the first 10 is really where I'm going with this. Now, I've also been talking about that Denver game in week 2. I absolutely think it's a good time to get, as we talked about yesterday, to get Bo Nix, because that'll be his first real week of, preparing for an NFL opponent, how that all works, and what do I do on Tuesday? What do I do on Thursday? How do I practice this? And the Steelers will have a game of Bo Nix, most likely it's going to be him, to study and have a clue what the rookie looks like in an NFL stadium. So that's important. However, I still fear going to Denver a great deal in September. And here's why. Over the last decade, the Broncos have not been a particularly good team. I mean, really, since Peyton Manning, they have not been a particularly good team and have not been in the playoffs in a long time. Okay, I think you know that. But in September home games, over the last 10 seasons, they win 2 out of 3. Pretty darn good for a team that's not all that good. And to put that in perspective, home games over the last decade, not in September, they win 53%. So they're about 500 in non-September home games. They're hitting 2 out of 3 in September home games. And I can't stress this enough. The reason is, of course, is the altitude. And at this point, the Steelers starters will only have played one game with a full snap count, and it takes a while. So there you have it. Couple little nuggets I pulled up on the Steelers, and then some other things here too. So as you probably figured out, in the 4 weeks before the Steelers Week 9 bye, they have 3 primetime games: Cowboys Week 5, Jets Week 7, Giants Week 8. But they're all at Accushore. They also, as I'm sure you noticed, but is an odd thing, they have 4 straight divisional games from week 11 to 14, including a short week in week 12 in Cleveland, following a date in Baltimore on the 17th. That's brutal. And then the 3-game finale on the regular season is at Baltimore, KC versus Cincy. I mean, it's just, I was just looking at some of the articles out there that is quoted there of who's got some of the toughest runs, who doesn't, and just wanted to reiterate how tough that is. So interesting schedule for the Steelers. I'll probably find out a couple more things. I'll dig through it and, tidbits here and there. But BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I will be down at minicamp next week. I'll be broadcasting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think it is. So be good to see players live, running around, all that good stuff. And then I just found this over the last couple of days as well, is Pro Football Focus is putting out a series of most underrated player on every team and a breakout player on every team. And I just want to kind of read their write-ups for you, because I think that you'll feel a little better about both these players. And not that you're down on either or shocked with either one of these, but their most underrated player was Isaac Seumalo. Seumalo was part of arguably the NFL's best offensive line while in Philly. And although he did not get off to a good start in Pittsburgh, he soon proved why the Steelers signed him as a free agent in 2023. Now, I don't love Pro Football Focus O-line grades in particular, but they mentioned he didn't get off to a good start. So if you exclude the first 2 weeks of the season last year, he earned a 78.3 PFF grade. That's 6th amongst all guards. I mean, for the better part of the whole season. And going to a new team, I don't fault someone for starting kind of slow. And remembering those games, yeah, he wasn't as good. But as the season went on, he played like one of the best guards in the league. And I think we need to recognize that. I mean, now with the 2 tackles and young center around him and Daniels, he's going to be the foundation of that line, but he may not be the best guy anymore. You hope not. Because I think he's somebody you can really count on. Now, the breakout guy probably also won't shock you. Anyone that follows the team as closely as you and I do know that Keanu Benton is really impressive. But I thought their write-up was even more so. And here we go. Pittsburgh had several sophomores who should burst onto the scene, but maybe none as tantalizing as Benton. The former Badger ranks 4th on the Steelers with 24 pressures, despite only playing 516 snaps. 24 pressures on 516 snaps is a ton, folks. There were several moments when Benton looked flat out unblockable, but the Steelers didn't use him as much as anticipated as a rookie, with Cameron Hayward experiencing a down 2023 and uncertainty with Larry Ogunjobi's production. It feels as though Benton should easily exceed his previous snap count and be disruptive on the interior. I don't know that he'll be better than Cam Hayward this year, but I'll bet pretty much everything I have he'll be better, more valuable, and certainly should play more snaps than Ogunjobi, who I'm not down on, but he kind of is what he is at this point and is a little bit of a flash player and seems to wear down as the game goes on. And he's always, as the season goes along, he's always questionable and hard to get on game day. But I don't dislike him at all. But it's just, if you can line up Benton and Hayward most snaps when you have a 4-man front, that could really be a difference maker. And I kind of feel like he has broken out, but the volume and what could be in front of Benton is really, really tantalizing. So some good stuff for you today. Next week, like I said, I'll be at minicamp. I'll have some observations of how these guys, and shorts and shells or whatever, but I'd like to see them running around. Certainly the rookies stand out in that regard too. I'm sure some people will tell me some things while I'm down there. Get some good lunches. It's always a plus. And there you have it. And again, I'm going to do some more deep dives into the schedule. I have some nerdy spreadsheets for you guys too. Some stuff on the Steelers quarterbacks in that regard. I think you'll like. We'll do that next week. We'll definitely do another mailbag next week. Those have been quite good. So that's a wrap. Take care.